our statistics, okay? And then I'll explain everything. As of 2022, there were 39,000 people in Campbell County. 19% of those people were living in poverty, which is about 7,600 people. And when I say living in poverty, I mean living in conditions that most of us kind of shy away from, okay? Not necessarily living on the streets, but living in places in disrepair, could be considered falling apart, or in some instances completely uninhabitable. The National Alliance to End Homelessness says that 40%, now that's aside from the 19% that I just told you about, 40% of the population of Campbell County is one bad day away from being in poverty. And what I mean by poverty, what I mean by one bad day away, I'm talking one missed paycheck, one tragedy, one accident, one lost job. 40% of our population, which comes out to about 15,000 people. Okay? Now, if you stick those two numbers together, that means between people living in poverty and people one bad day away from it, you're looking at about 23,000 people, which is about 6 out of 10. That's how many of us in here? Some of us. I'm probably one of those people, honestly. I run a nonprofit. I don't make a lot of money, but 18% of that population are children under the age of 18. So that comes out to about 4,200 people. Now, I was raised in poverty. I was definitely one of these folks. I never came from means. A lot of you probably know my mother. Nancy introduced her as Janet Baird. Her name is Janet Jones. She worked at Hardee's for a long time. Probably served you all breakfast. I know Logan. She gave me breakfast a lot. She took care of a lot of people. I didn't always have what I wanted, but I always had what I needed because my mother worked hard. Now, in poverty, I lived over here, what we used to call the New Projects, which is the Pleasant Ridge Apartments, not even a mile from here. I grew up in Section 8 housing. The rest of my family grew up in the surrounding housing authorities. My mother did draw food stamps at one point because she was unemployed until the job at Hardee's became available. And she was the second person hired at Hardee's. Growing up, if you look at the statistics, if you look at my socioeconomic background for the time, I should have about 7 kids by 4 different women. I should have a rap sheet. I should have a rap sheet at Campbell County Sheriff's Office about this thick. I should have probably applied for disability that I probably didn't deserve about 4 times now and been turned down, but I didn't. And I didn't turn out that way. And the reason that I didn't turn out that way was because I had parents and family that loved me, and I had a community that was there for me. I had mentors in my life. I'm going to put her on the spot and say Nancy was one of those mentors. I was a regular customer at the library where I got to read and learn a love of education. And then I had teachers, and I had a good church family. I had people that supported me and encouraged me and helped me to overcome that. And because of that, the man that stands before you today is proof that our system can work. With the right things in place, our system can work. It has its issues. It's broken in certain places, but it can work. And I really want you all to understand that because it's how I've modeled my life. It's how I have started to model Pinnacle Resource Center. After graduating Campbell County High School, I got to go to East Tennessee State University, where I studied logical analysis. I have 2 Bachelor of Science degrees and a minor. I have a Bachelor of Science degree in logical analysis, which is a philosophy subclass. I have a degree in political science, government relations, and I have a minor in psychology. And I actually got to do an internship up at the state legislature in 2006, where I got to learn about government relations and things like that. Had a blast in that program. I hope that's still going, by the way.
It is.
Good. Because I learned so much about our government and leadership at that program. And of course, and I'm sure some of you have heard this, and I hope some of you haven't said this, but you always heard people back in the day say, if you want to make a living, don't come back. When you leave, don't come back. Don't come back to Campbell County. Go somewhere else, make your money, and then come back for your family or whatever, but don't try to make a living here. I almost found that kind of offensive in a way, because I felt like I was abandoning the people that were in the very same situation that I came from. So I went to school on a mission to come back to make a difference and show people that there can be more people that break that glass ceiling. And I still fully believe that today, even after 12 years of burnout and striving and digging and trying, I still stand before you and believe that today, wholeheartedly. Pinnacle Resource Center strives to be the pinnacle of defense against poverty in Campbell, Scott, and Morgan counties for families and individuals by providing emergency housing services, food, clothing, and comprehensive case management services. We, as a whole, collect the broken pieces of society. I'm not saying that our society is broken. I'm saying it has cracks in it. And we have things that fall to the ground. And Pinnacle's goal is to try to scoop those pieces back up and put them back together with what we already have. We do that based on something, one of my college educations that I got was I learned about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And as I went on this journey of being the director of what was Scott County Homeless Shelter, and we evolved into Pinnacle Resource Center at the time, when I first started working with homelessness and things like that, I heard all the time, sometimes hear it still, people say things like, well, if they would just get off their butt and go get a job, they would be fine. Or if they would just stop doing drugs, that would be fine. Or if they would just insert whatever. And to an extent, some of that's true. I'm not going to disagree. But something that I learned is that it is almost, for lack of a better word, ridiculous to think that if it's going to be 28 degrees outside and I don't know where my next meal is coming from, I don't care about getting a job. I don't care about making amends in the court system. I don't care about taking care of my probation or anything like that. The only thing I care about, it goes all the way back to our hunter-gatherer roots. It's like, I want shelter and I need food. That's it. I'm not thinking about long-term planning. I'm not doing the things and setting goals that need to be because I'm not having my basic physiological needs met for whatever reason. It may be their fault completely. It may be blind, stupid fate that just put them in the situation they're in. For whatever reason, they are where they are now. And I hear this over in Scott County sometimes. Well, they just need to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. Well, okay, that's fine. But can we give them some boots? You can't pull yourself up by bootstraps if you don't even have boots to wear. And that's where a lot of these people are starting to fall through the cracks. After their physiological needs are met, when they come into our program, I'm going to jump into some of our programming. We have emergency shelter for those on the streets. We provide housing services to prevent homelessness. We have a food pantry. We have thrift items that are free to those in crisis. We do not charge for those who are in crisis. And we also do a comprehensive case management system, which is a lot more complicated than what I have time to get into here today. But by bringing them into our program, the people that are literally homeless, those are the main people I wanted to address. By bringing them into our program, we meet those physiological needs the second they walk into our program. We give them food, clothing, shelter. Done. They need medical treatment, we get them there. They need some mental health services, they need rehab, they need detox. We take them in and we get them those things immediately. So we can start working on the next level of Maslow's hierarchy, which is safety. We start letting them know, hey, you're not in survival mode anymore. You're not out here with people trying to stab you in the back and take your things and do you dirty because they're trying to step on you as a stepping stone to get ahead. That's not happening anymore. It's okay. And as they get used to that, then they start having this love and belonging, and then we go on up the ladder. I'm not going to explain the whole hierarchy to you. But then they get that sense of love and belonging, they build that confidence that they need, and they start realizing that, hey, life doesn't have to be like it is on the street all the time. And then we start the healing process, and we start working with them. Now, sometimes this is a quicker process. Sometimes people have to stay with us for a while. As we bring them into this program, we analyze each individual person. Because another thing that I learned is that the problem that we have in society is not cookie cutter. There is no cookie cutter outline to just say, this is how we fix homelessness. It can be as simple as just providing housing and resources, but overall, why are these people homeless? Is it a lack of education? Is it a drug problem? Is it domestic violence? Is it mental health? There's a whole host of things that Pinnacle addresses with these folks as we work with them. So as we support and encourage these folks with everything we try to do, the biggest component of the program, aside from direct care for those that need us, is that Pinnacle tries to be a team player in our community. And I'm not going to insult, well, I hope I don't insult any other nonprofits by saying this, but a lot of nonprofits, they don't like to share their cookies and things like that. Pinnacle is the opposite in that respect, in that I get involved in other nonprofits. I want to see your nonprofit succeed. I want to see your small business succeed, because those are places for my people in the future. Okay, if I could wave a magic wand right now and take every single homeless person, addict, person struggling and everything, and place them all safely in one of my facilities today, it wouldn't make a hill of beans if I don't have resources to send them to. They're going to end up sitting in my building until either they figure something out for themselves, or they, which is what usually happens, they violate enough rules to where we just have to say, hey, you're not really trying, let's see if we can get you somewhere else, or do something else with. So Pinnacle's twofold thing is we want to address the problem directly. We're not just putting bandages on these people's situations. We want to actually perform surgery and fix the problem, so we can get these people reintegrated into society. And reintegration is a huge part, because I want to address something else that I've heard some of our local governments say. Again, I hope I don't offend anyone when I say this, but we have actually, and I've heard it leave their mouth, say things such as, well, this is how we fix the problem. We just make it as hard as we can on these people, and eventually they'll go away. That doesn't work. Scientific and statistical data has proven that not only does it not work, that mentality doesn't work, it actually makes the problem worse. Because when these folks, yeah, you can make it hard on them until they leave, or you can even ship them somewhere else. But the problem is that wherever they go, they're going to have the same situation and the same problems they had there, and they're going to meet other people like them, and people always come back to where their roots are. So you might send out John Doe and get him out of the county because he's a troublemaker and he's in the arrest record every time you turn around or something like that. But then he goes somewhere else and he meets a little girl, and they do things, and he brings her back and probably some of her family, and now instead of just dealing with John Doe, now we've got Jane Doe, little John Doe, and probably Jane Doe's family that's brought back with him, and now they're all here. So we need to be addressing the problem directly with the folks in our community, and that's what Pinnacle strives to do. The cold hard truth of it, folks, is that the problem of poverty isn't going to go away on its own. And I think particularly in the political and social environment that we've seen develop in our country over the last few years, maybe even the last decade if I want to stretch back that far, There are so many issues and so many hot topics that we don't even want to look at them anymore. And because we have all these big issues we're having to address, what we consider these smaller issues, like a homeless person walking down the street or something, it becomes I'll get to it, I'll get there eventually. You know, we need to focus on this and we'll get there. But my view of the strategy is, if we go ahead and grab those people and we get them back to where they need to be, and we start putting the pieces of the globe back together, those people are going to be the very ones that help us fix the other problems. I've got several people that have gone through my program that work for me now. Kelly Newton, she told me I could use her name. She had to go through my program 7 times. She was a very well-known drug addict. Everything under the sun, if it was a drug, she'd take it. Party hard and everything else. Finally, that last time through, she got hooked up in a very bad relationship, very abusive, and she's kind of codependent, blah, blah, blah. She would tell you all this stuff. I'm not just spilling beans for her. But she now works for me. She helps house the very people that she used to be a population of. And she has a passion for it. She's found her passion because she realizes that she can overcome it too. And I couldn't be more proud of her, because I know what she feels. Because like I told you at the beginning of my speech, I should have been that guy too, but I'm not. And I couldn't be more blessed than that. The Bible gives us 2,000 verses, over 2,000 verses about taking care of the poor and the needy in our community. None of them ask the question, why? Why are you the way you are? It just says, do it. And I always like